So the 6-5 versus the 7-4 split. I want to talk about this today on today's show, and I thought that we'll bring a panel to the show as well to discuss this, because I thought that this is a very important subject to talk about, because a lot of people are confused about how they want to line up against us in Australia. Now, we must also remember that the Australian conditions are going to be very favorable for South Africa's bowlers and for bowlers in general. I doubt people are probably going to go with two spinners, but that's up to you guys to decide if you want that in your team or not. And the fans in the live chat, you can have your say on what you would like to see. But I'm also going to get a panel on board. Hopefully, everybody does join promptly, and then we can obviously have a conversation about this specifically and see what the panel has to say about this, and see where they are sitting currently with our test team. I've definitely split it up, me personally, and we're going to split the coaches, of course. So I split it up like this too, in a way that I'm going to focus on test cricket as a separate entity to the white ball arena. The white ball cricket plans and things that they're going to do there is going to have to be different to what they're doing in the test arena. And we're probably not going to see the same mentality, even though I hope that we see the same strategies put in place and the same movements put in place on both sides. So without further ado, let's get straight into today's video. But before we get going, please subscribe to the channel. Please click that notification bell for all future videos. Don't forget to smash the like button, comment, and share. And also don't forget to download the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics magazine monthly. Every issue is 100% free, straight to your inbox every month. Link is on the screen as well as in the description. And if you want to help us grow and promote South African cricket, become a patron today. Link is in the description as well. And go to cricketfanaticsmag.com for all our features, updates, exclusive interviews, etc. The things that you can find on YouTube as well. You can also find articles of that pieces of content, opinion pieces, etc. as well on the website. But general news, updates, and press releases, all of those things are on cricketfanaticsmag.com. So please go ahead and check that out. So without further ado, let's get straight into today's video. Looking forward to discussing this topic with everybody. A very good evening and welcome to Cricket Fanatics Magazine. This is your daily show. I'm your host, Khalid, and this is the show where we talk about all the major talking points in South African cricket. Now, we have a debutant on the show today. We got Stuart Judge with us. He's the guy that gave us that awesome question for the last show that we did, so I thought it might be a brilliant opportunity to bring him on the show to discuss things with us. We're waiting on another person currently, a few people, I'm hoping. They will join as the show goes along. But I think let's get straight into this. But before we get started, let me just get your guys' views, because you didn't get the opportunity to talk about it quite yet, and that's the test squad. What is your thoughts on that? I'm going to give him Paul the first one, and then we can go to Stuart. What is your thoughts on the squad? I'm going to put it on the screen so you guys can have a look and have a check at what you think about it.
So batting is very light. I think I'm happy Tinus de Bruyn is back. I think he needed to get a run. I kind of felt that he was hard done by at the start of the Mark Boucher era, because that Sri Lanka tour felt like it was a turning point, even though from an eye test perspective, the selectors could say not so much. And then, look, obviously with no KP, happy Temba's back in the test fold. But my worry is obviously the all-rounder spot. I don't know how that's going to work out. Obviously got Marco Jansen there. I thought they might want to bring in Vian Mulder. Heino Claessen's in for Ryan Rickleton. That whole Rickleton situation is very weird, because the Proteas are going to be leaving at the end of this month, and the Lions released a squad with him in, as well as Kagiso and Temba. We know that Kagiso and Temba aren't playing tomorrow, but it just doesn't make sense that it's say T20 challenge. There was a fitness test that was leveled at the same level as the Proteas, but then when it comes to medical clearance, we all have differing appearance. So that's my issue with all of this. But outside of that, our bowling just looks great. For me, my thing was with Gerald Coetzee. Is pace enough? I understand you want out and out pace for Australia, but is it enough for him to get a call up? Is Othniel Botman not going to be good enough to on those wickets? I see the got Clinton Steedman. Obviously, you want a guy who can crank it up. I know Botman can't crank it up to 150, but he's in the 140. So that was my only question around that. But I think the joke it's here is a let's unleash a guy that Australia doesn't know that could possibly win us I think a test series similar to Marco Jansen. But I'm excited to see Marco actually bowl in Australia. That's going to be quite cool.
Stuart, I mean, you've heard what Mpo had to say. Do you have any rebuttals or anything you agree with or disagree with, etc.?
No, I completely agree with what he said, especially about the batting. I think we are a bit light there. Personally, I would have liked to have seen someone like Mark, I think it's Mark Ackerman, sorry if I mispronounce his name, Marcus Ackerman, get a chance, or I'd like to have seen maybe guys who've been performing more in first class, like on a consistent basis, like Sibs Makanya, and all those guys get a decent opportunity and an extended run in the team, because I think I do like the fact that De Bruyne's been called back to the squad, but I kind of think we need to start thinking more long-term and selecting younger players. So maybe give guys like Tony De Zorzi a go, give Ryan Rickleton an extended run. I was really happy about Gerald Coetzee. To be honest with you, I haven't watched him bowl that much, but it'll be interesting to see if he does get a go. I'd personally give him a go if we get to a situation where, let's say, if we 2-0 down in the series and in the third match, I'd give him a debut just to see what happens. So, yeah, but I completely agree with him, Paul.
Okay, awesome. Ashwani, I know you're a big fan of Vian Mulder. Were you shocked not to see him get selected in this particular squad?
First of all, hello to everyone.
How's it, guys?
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. We didn't get to say anything. Go ahead, Ashwani.
Yeah, I think, yes, little bit surprise. Mulder is, I think he's your upcoming star, I can say about him, because what I saw him from that 2016 Under-19 World Cup, I follow his journey and tracking him. I think in the past 1 or 2 years, I think he has increased little bit pace in his bowling. Obviously, he's bowling around 130s, but I think at first he's starting around 125 to 128. But now with gaining more fitness, he's increasing his pace. Plus, also his batting is improved a bit. Obviously, he's inconsistent. That's why he's out from the South African team. But he gained that county experience, which I think improved his batting. And one thing which South Africa should look at, that the opposition team has 2 all-rounders. Obviously, Mitchell Marsh, I don't know he will be in test squad or not, but their number 6 is Cameron Green. So I think Australia is that regard is more settled as compared to South Africa. That number 6 batsman, which is your all-rounder, gives you that balance in the team. So I think Vian Mulder in that regard, I think, is very important in that South African playing 11. So obviously, I am disappointed with Mulder is out from the team. But I think one thing, obviously, Mupo is also talking about. I think if South Africa can bat it well in Australian conditions, I think they will winning this Test series 4th time. If you saw in previous in England series where South Africa bat well, they win the Test. I think in the first Test at Lords they scored around 326. Their bowling is fantastic. They had got one of the best fast bowling attack in the world, along with Australia, or you can say that Pakistan too. So I think if South African openers can bat well, or South African batting can cope with Australian batting lineup, they can certainly done well in Australia. And I hope South Africa will again win this Test series 4th time.
AD, I'm sure you're very happy. Welcome back, by the way. I haven't chatted to you in a long time. Yeah. But with regards to the squad, I think you're very happy that the likes of the senior guys are coming back into the team. The likes of Rassie van der Dussen, Themba Bavuma. It's going to obviously bring a lot of experience into that middle order, I would say. So, what's your thoughts on the squad as well? Let's just get a brief summary from you, and then we can get Nazir's thoughts. And then we're going to go with them, Paul, straight away, get into the 7-4 split versus 6-5, what you'd prefer. Okay, so AD, take it away.
Well, greetings to everyone. It's always good to be back talking cricket. With respect to the squad, I think most names were along expected lines, and they probably deserved to be in that squad. Obviously, the big question mark at that point was going to be who replaced KP there in that very important number 3 position. Given that he sort of nailed it, and he was fast becoming a prolific run scorer for the Proteas. Again, I think the question mark in any 11 will be how do you balance that pace versus control factor? Because as much as South Africa values pace, and as much as pace is effective in Australia, we shouldn't forget Vernon Philander's contribution to South Africa's series win back in 2016. He was key to that win, and obviously Vernon is more of a 130s kind of bowler. So that's where I feel like Vian Mulder might be missed a little bit. But then I think it's about how Dean manages his resources there. Yeah, I think that's the big question mark for me, with respect to how the bowlers are managed, because you obviously want to have significant control. I mean, a significant balance between pace and control. And obviously, as Aliga mentioned in his press conference, he wants his batters to step up and score big hundreds. So yeah, I think that's probably a question on all of our minds, and we just hope that can happen against a very prolific Australian bowling attack. But I think overall, the squad is pretty much along expected lines.
Yeah, I don't think there was too many shocks. I think what stood out for me is Aiden Markram not being picked in the squad. I thought they would have still went for him, even after his disappointment in the red ball. But I would have still left him out as well. I think what he needs is to go back to domestic cricket, get some big runs under his belt, because in my opinion, Aiden Markram is someone we need in South African cricket. Because he bats in all 3-4. He hasn't really showed it in one-day cricket, but he showed what he can do in Test match cricket before. I mean, just at the beginning of last year, he was scoring 100 against Pakistan. It might seem a while ago, but he did do that, and he scored hundreds against India and Australia. But he deserved to be dropped, and he needs to go score some runs in domestic cricket. And then I would have liked to see Vian Mulder in the team. I think he did well in England, especially in the One Day Cup there, but he was all right in the red ball stuff in county as well. And I don't think Marco Jansen can bat, but I don't think he's an all-rounder, a proper all-rounder. And I think I would have liked to see Vian Mulder in the squad. He gives more balance to the team. And like we just spoke about now, he's not Vernon Philander, but he does bring that sort of variation to the bowling attack. So I would have liked to see him as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's all very interesting points, and it actually brings us to the point that we want to make today and talk about this, because I saw a lot of different opinions when it comes to the team lineup and what we want to see in Australia. Now, we also have to take into consideration that when you're picking a team for a test match, of course, the conditions are going to play a role in who you're going to select, of course. Now, I put a poll in the live chat as well for you guys to vote. And at the end of the show, I will check what basically formation I call it. It's not football, but okay. It's basically almost like a formation in a way, a lineup that you would like to pick for this particular team, and what your best 11 would be with regards to splitting it. Now, Paul, I'm going to start you off. Where are you lying currently with this? Is it about picking the best batters, 6, and then the best bowlers, 4, and then you maybe pick that middle guy and decide who you're going to play in that extra spot based on the conditions?
I don't think it's that. I think the fundamental question for me is how can I score 300 runs, 300 plus? And with this batting lineup, or the batting squad that they've sent there, it's only Timber and Dean and Sardal who have some semblance of red ball form. Obviously, we don't know if Timber's going to go up or down, but he's been the best batter of the side for a while, and he was missed in England. So him coming back strengthens it. Rassi's had a really horrible, not the best, actually not say horrible, not the best 2022 with the bat in terms of red ball cricket. So that's also going to be quite an interesting one. And obviously, we've seen Kyle. He scored 100 in New Zealand, but over the part in England, he didn't look himself. And obviously the question, obviously, Kaya Zondo, and Tennis de Brain, how that's going to work out. So I'm really worried as to whether this team can score 300, which is why I will go with 7. And you go in with one spinner, that's Keshav, and you go in with the 3 seamers. I know we always under Mark Boucher, we always try to have an extra seamer with the threat of injury. If a guy is not 50% there, you've got Joe Kutsia, you've got Marco Janssen, drop them. I think for me that's the thinking going into this test series is if on the day the guy's like 95 or 80% fit, don't play them. Rather play the guy who's 100% fit, just so that you can have the extra batter. I think throughout the Boucher's tenure, I've wanted an extra batter in there, because I can win. I can take 20 wickets with my 4 bowlers, including Cash. I don't need, because half the time the 4th bowler is always an extra. Like we come on here on review shows, and the guy who didn't bowl well is the guy that the fans would want. Who didn't bowl enough is the guy the fans would want out of the side because he's technically not performing. So for me, 4 quicks in Australia is a little bit too much, but I could do 3 and a spinner, and I can take 20 wickets. But my problem is the 300 runs or 300 plus, and I want that cover. And to a certain extent, I wouldn't mind actually dropping Kyle to 7, and having and just padding that batting lineup with everybody who can bat, even Hyman Claassen. Quite frankly, if he's good enough and he's on form, they throw him in. And so that's how I'm thinking right now. Is I can give Australia problems with the ball. I just don't know if we have it enough to beat them with the bat.
Now, Stuart, I'm going to come to you quickly because based on what Mpo said, and I'm thinking quite a bit of the fan base will also think about that 7-4 split and will probably favor that. And according to the poll currently, that is what's been favored currently. What I want to ask you is because South Africa's mentality is opposite of what Mpo is thinking. They went with what our best strengths are. And this has been since Otis Gibson. I feel it even to an extent, maybe Russell Domingo too, because we had a decent all-rounder in the likes of Vernie Philander in the team as well. So it really did help him. Marco Janssen is not there yet. He still needs a lot of time, and we agree on that. But South Africa's mindset is going with their strengths and just saying, okay, we're going to take the 20 wickets. And Paul still feels that we can do it with the 4 bowlers. So what's your thoughts on that and your pick when it comes to the 2?
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest concern is like our batting averages of the individual batters. If you look at our top 5 or 6, like, I mean, Alga is averaging in the 30s, and I love him as a player. But I just like to echo what Mpo said. I'm very worried about the batting, and I think with Australia's bowling attack and Hazelwood, Cummins, Stark, and then they've got Nathan Lyon. Our batting could easily be I don't want to say destroyed. It sounds a bit too emotive, but I feel like we need to cover that as much as possible. So I think for me, like, I'd generally go with the normal top 5 of what we normally have done with Alga, Avia. I'd obviously put Tiernus the Brain in the team because Keegan Peterson's not there. And then, the biggest question for me is just that number 7 spot, because I was kind of going with Klaasen or Zondo. And I know we went with Zondo in England, And I think he got a 30 or 40, if I'm not mistaken, in the last test. So I kind of think if we are going to play an extra batter, he needs to have, like, I know he's 33 and I know he's not everyone's favorite pick, but I think we need to give players an extended run in the team to like, judge them fairly. And then I also thought when I chose my team that, obviously we've got quite a few players who are in the squad who are going to be a bit, I don't want to say scarred from the World Cup that's just happened. So I would almost try the unknown players. So I'd try to put as a DPO was saying, Glenson Stearman in the team, because although he's not an exact copy of what Vernon Philander can do, he does possess sort of similar traits to what Vernon Philander can do. And we also saw what happened in Hobart in the day-night test. So for me, I think I'd rather just pick guys who are in the best state of mind at the moment. And then at the 7, I'd go with Zonda. But yeah. I don't know if that was a bit too controversial.
There's a lot of disruption. I don't know if this. I don't know. There's a lot of lagging. I don't know if you all guys are feeling it. There's a bit of lagging. Ashwani, I'm going to come to you now. Excellent points made by Stuart from what about that and giving people opportunities. Now, what I want to speak to you about is that I know you guys want to pick 7 batters, and obviously I'm going to try and be the devil's advocate over here. The problem at the moment that we face is that we have so little experience in the team. That's, I think, is the big problem with regards to this particular team.
Right.
It's the experience coming in. So even if you do pick a 7th batter, it's not necessarily going to guarantee that we're going to strengthen the batting, because at the moment we're not 100% in, and whether they're going to hit the ground running or not. So our bowlers are going to have to bail us out regardless if that is the case. But if you do pick someone and he comes off, well, then you obviously made the correct decision. Ultimately, I still feel your top 6 needs to perform, regardless of whether you're going to pick that extra batter or not. But Ashwani, in your case over here, how would you go?
I think if you look at the ground where South Africa will play their matches, I think Brisbane, Melbourne, and Sydney. I think Brisbane and Sydney are 2 of the best batting tracks in South Africa. Plus, you also should remember that South Africa, when they going into uh, England, they played with Duke's ball, and in Australia, obviously, they use Kookaburra ball, and with Kookaburra ball, mostly what you saw, you have to spend 10-15 overs. If you spend 10-15 overs there, after that, I think batting will little bit easy there. So I think in this series you can expect some good batting performances from South Africa. In the previous Test series, Dean Elgar has 100 in Perth as well. So I think I can expect some good batting performances there. But I think they have to make sure that their opening partnership, even if they don't score the runs, obviously they spend some time. Obviously, the initial overs, 10-15 overs, that is very, very crucial in Australia. I can give you the example from Indian perspective. When India to Australia in 2003 and 2004 there, obviously we have Akash Chopra and Virender Sehwag. The guy Akash Chopra is just defending the ball, and obviously Sehwag is just playing the natural game. I think if you can survive the initial 10 overs, that is the key in Australia. So I think it's up to the openers if they can survive that, if they can give that a solid platform for the upcoming batters. So I think South Africa can score runs there. So I would like to see what openers play there. Opening new ball is a key in Australia. And for the bowling side, I think obviously South Africans has a good record in Australians. The likes of Fanny de Villiers, Sean Pollock, Alan Donald, their rich legacy there. But I think sometimes the length is the key, because the guys who are not played in Australia that much. Obviously, Kagiso Rabada is the only fast bowler I think in the squad who has played in Australia, and he has a terrific record, and he is very crucial for South Africa's chances. So I think the lengths which South African bowlers have to bowl, particularly the likes of Johnson and Nokia, they have to bowl little bit fuller. They're not up to the batsman, but that 4 to 6 meter length, that will be crucial in Australia, because when the new bowler come to Australia, he's little bit excited there that I have to bowl the short ball to carry out, because both the guys have space, and the Johnson, obviously he has that height factor. I think he's going to be the next Bruce Reed for South Africa. So I think people will comparing him with Bruce Reed. Obviously, you will see in their pre-match shows. So I think the length is very important in Australia for the bowlers as well. So I will expect South Africa will give tough fight to Australia.
AD, there's an interesting comment that maybe we can push you into continuing this conversation, and that's from Wayne. He says, instead of 7 batters, maybe picking both Jansen and Coetzee is an option. We'd still have 5 bowlers then. I'd drop Rabada. That is a crazy idea, I feel. What's your thoughts,
No,
Aditya?
You're a brave man, Wayne. You're a brave man. And
I don't know
as
if brave is the word.
as much as I appreciate your suggestion, Wayne, I'd pick KG just for the experience, if not form. Because I think there are a couple of things that we have to take into consideration here. South Africa need to have as much X factor in their team as they possibly can. Let's think from the bowling point of view. Okay, what is Australia's top 4 going to be? David Warner, Usman Khwaja, Marnus Labuschagne, Stephen Smith. There is a lot of hundreds there. There are far too many hundreds there for South Africa to drop KG. And there are also far too many hundreds there for KG not to be on his A game. Because we know that he gets better through the course of a series, but if you're 1-0 down in Australia, it's very difficult for you to come back. So you have to be on top of your game when you start off. And South Africa will be going in, like 2016. South Africa are going to be in this series as underdogs. Simple as that. And again, as Ashwani very rightly said, that in Australia, if you can get through that initial phase of a couple of hours, then batting gets easier. And you have to be persistent. So South Africa definitely want to avoid a situation where they are 50 for 4. You absolutely cannot afford to have that sort of situation, because you look at the South African team generally, there just aren't enough hundreds. How many people are scoring massive hundreds for South Africa? This is not the sort of place where you can play a match-winning 70 and get by. It's just not going to fly. So, South Africa, they have to make sure that that they've got their plans in place, because I think if there's one thing that all of us probably noticed during the England series was that confused mental approach to batting. Should I be defensive? Should I be aggressive? You saw that pull shot that Markram got out to. It's an indication of a confused batter. It's okay to go at 2 runs and over for the first 2 hours. It's a 5-day game. It's okay to go at 3 runs and over. That's fine. You don't always have to push the accelerator. Because the most important thing that South Africa can do for themselves is win, or at least put themselves in a winning position. But if you're 50 for 4 on day 1, then you've got a problem.
Aditya, I also think, and Nazir, you maybe you must chip in here next. I feel that the tentative South Africa's been playing a very defensive, tentative approach to Test cricket recently. They've been speaking about playing a smart brand and whatever they want to play. Actually, Dean Elgar's been very adamant that he wants to play his style of Test cricket, which is that grinding out and being tough and all of those type of things. I almost feel that we are forcing players that don't naturally play like that to do so. and it almost is a detriment to us rather than an advantage to us currently. I feel that if we just play, if our batters can just play a natural game and read the conditions and just play an ordinary, relaxed game, we'd be far better off than trying to play this almost defensive style of Test cricket. What's your thoughts on that, and why have you pushed to play that extra batter if you are going to be doing that?
Yeah, I would. I think it's more about strengthening the weakness than strengthening the strength. I would pick 7 batsmen. I'm gonna disagree with the teacher on a couple things. Or well, one thing that I can think of now, is that the X factor thing that he spoke about. I agree with that from a bowling point of view, and I think we have all bases covered from that side. We have great fast bowlers who can win us the game and take 20 wickets. I have no doubt about that. The batting side of things, I don't think we have batsmen who have X factor. Not at this point in time. We had Quinton de Kock, he used to do that, but we don't have that anymore. And I think all our test matches we've won in the recent past haven't been because our batsmen have shown X factor. It's been more grit and determination. And I still like that old style of test cricket. That's just my personal opinion. I think if we're going to score decent runs, our bowlers are going to probably, if we're going to win the series, it's our bowlers that are going to win the series for us. And we just need to have decent totals on the board. And I don't think we need X factor for decent totals. I think we can crit it out, Dean Algar style, ugly cricket, especially in Australia when they're going to be, crowd is on your back. They're going to be bouncing you. I don't mind seeing that kind of cricket, to be honest. I'm hoping Dean Algar comes to the party. He hasn't been at the best by any stretch of imagination in recent past. But yeah, that's what I'm going to disagree on that point.
We're not in disagreement, bro. I was talking about X factor with respect to the bowlers, not the batters.
Oh, okay. No, 100%.
Yeah. Because
But it's
my
good.
approach, like my perspective right from the England series has been that it's fine to be defensive. This whole, be aggressive but smart thing is, and I was at the press conference when that phrase was coined. So we've had plenty of debates about that aggressive but smart approach. So yeah, again, just to reiterate, like I think if South Africa, if a batter scores 150 or 350, that's perfectly fine. I don't think a batter has to score 150 of 175 balls. I think that's just a ridiculous, aspiration to have. But yeah, I think the batting is obviously going to be really important.
Now, Stuart, I'm going to get some more comments from you here because my philosophy has always been that South Africa, because of where we play in 4-day cricket, our batters get to face different type of conditions. Other than other countries, I would say more than other countries. I would say, other than maybe, I would probably say England. In certain areas, you could maybe get certain areas that are not as swinging condition friendly as others. But I mean, in South Africa, you can get a bit of everything: swinging, spin, and fast bowling, fast tracks, and like Centurion dry wickets. So our batters generally have to be able to be adaptable if they want to be dominant in our local scene. What's been happening though in the last couple of years is that a lot of batters have been dominating in specific grounds only, and it's been enough for them to win trophies because they can dominate at the Lions, at the Wanderers, they can dominate at Centurion and Newlands, and then they can fail at the spinning condition wickets, like for example at Buffalo Park, etc., and in Durban, and or St George's Park in PE. They can fail there and still win their team a trophy or win their team enough matches. So you can see like a guy, for example, Reinhard van Tonder, you would see majority of his things in Bloem. Bloem is a flat track. You saw a lot of runs over there, for example. So his things have been a little bit skewed. Pretoria and at the Wanderers, he's been dominant, and then he's gotten 160, I think, 160, not 160, 160 at Durban. I wish he had 160 Durban because then he would have beaten this team by now, which I was hoping was going to happen. But I feel that if South Africa's batters, and if you look at the batters that have been picked, and you probably pick the top 6 now and say Dean Algar, Sarel Erwin naturally is a type of player that will likes bat on ball, that plays his drives, that gets the balls into the gaps, etc., and takes his time at the crease like Dean Algar. When you see him batting domestic cricket, they might see more attacking in domestic cricket because you're obviously going to get a bowler that is not going to be as Mitchell Stark. It's not going to be a Josh Hazelwood, and then you can punish him and hit him to the boundary because you'll be inconsistent. Even the fast-paced bowlers. I don't want to give examples, and I'm calling players out, and I don't want to do that. I just made friends with them a couple of days ago, so I don't want to be calling anybody. So when it comes to the batters, I feel that if everybody, Rassi, Bavuma, everybody in this team just plays their normal game that they play, trust this in themselves, because we can see our batters change the way they bat from domestic, because they almost, it's like the style of cricket is enforced on them, and I feel they're overthinking it, and then they're like, oh, in order to play like that, I maybe need to stand more on off stump, or stand more in leg, or stand middle, or stand out of my crease, and they're changing their stances to try and fit to the situation that they're currently playing in. And that's my concern, is they putting their natural games out of the window, and kind of trying to play a brand of cricket that maybe doesn't suit them. Especially the younger guys coming in, because they're trying to impress. So obviously they're going to listen to the instructions rather than trust their own instincts in some points. So what's your thoughts on the approach of the way we bat? Do you think that we have the batters now, with Temba coming in, with Rassi coming in, with Rassi coming in? Do you think do you think we have enough to be able to take on the likes of Stark, Hazelwood, Cummins, etc.?
Yeah, I think we do, if I'm honest. Look, I've got to be honest with you. I'd have liked to have seen a few other batters go on the tour, as like, especially younger guys like Jordan Herman, as I said earlier, or Mark Ackerman, just to get like a bit of experience, at least, like, playing I don't say like warm-up games against Australia A and stuff like that. But for me, I think, if you look at like the media in general, we're obviously all passionate fans, and we're all going to scrutinize a player if they don't perform well. But at the end of the day, the player needs to stick to their own game plan. If their game plan is like Dean Algo, for example, nudging through third man, and that's how he's going to get to his 50, then by all means, that's what they must do. And I think it's just about picking the right combo to suit the team in general. I don't think we need to worry about batters performing individually, and it's something that I've noticed that India have done quite well across the formats, is they pick players who know each other, and they have the partnerships. And guys like Keegan Peterson, unfortunately, I don't want to speak about the guys who aren't there, but the guys who have been injured or whatever, it's not going to gel immediately. We've got to give it a bit of time. Like, maybe you sacrifice this, I don't want to say, well, not series and World Test Championship, but maybe we've got to think of it longer term and go, okay, if we select this guy, maybe he won't perform immediately. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, for this series, we just got to sum up the conditions on the day, and you just got to think about the type of, I don't want to say deliveries where Stark will bowl good Yorkers, for example. You got to think about how you can almost negate that. Josh Hazelwood's going to move the ball around with the new ball. You know what I mean? You got to just figure out how your game plan will best suit that, and be confident in the fact that you can say, I've scored runs in the past, I've got to this point, clearly I am good enough to be here.
Yeah, I just want to remind us all of an interview that Khalid and I had done with Ashwell Prince, where we specifically brought up a phrase that has far too often been used by the team, which is, there's going to be a ball with my name on it. So let me score as many runs as I can before that ball gets me. I hope I never hear that, because I think that's just such a negative way of playing, of approaching batting, and you can almost see why poor shot selection then becomes the downfall of a lot of batters. And this is not specific to South African batters. I've heard that from other teams as well. But Ashwell Prince was in firm disagreement with that statement, and you should watch his interview to get a sense of what he actually said in response to that question. But again, I do hope that in Australia they don't go in with that approach, and they go in with that sense of confidence that you know what, it might be difficult initially. We're going to grind it out, and we're going to make 1100 runs in one innings.
Yeah, I mean, Ashwell spoke very clearly about that with regards to personal goals and looking beyond the 100 mark if you want to score 100, not looking at the 100 as the mark. Try to visualize yourself going beyond 100, scoring 130, 140, 150, so that when you do fail, it doesn't feel as bad when you do fail. If you go past the mark, you won't even think about the 100 mark at that point because you only think your target is changed. It's a small mindset shift that maybe our batters need to learn. I feel like they put their eyes on, oh, I'm so close to 100, and then end up losing their wicket. Ashwani?
Yeah, I think one point I want to raise. I think the run scoring pattern in Australia is generally very quick if batsman gets set. So South Africa need to think about that particular batsman who try to attack the bowlers. If you, I can give you that from past series of South Africa and Australia in 2016. I think South Africa is losing wickets in the upfront. The guy like Quinton de Kock who changes the gear for South Africa there, and he changes that paradigm shift. So if you look at the players who are generally successful in Australia, they are the guys who just try to take on the bowlers. The guys like Viv Richards, obviously Michael Slater, he's in Australian. Rishabh Pant from currently he's aggressor. Matt Pryor from England in that 2010 famous series. So there are few examples. The guys who like to take on the bowler. So South Africa had to find that player in the late middle order. So I think the guy like Kyle Verene and more of the less Henrik Larsson can play that role. Obviously, you want to survive that new ball, but after that your survival, you have to attack the bowlers. You don't want to be bogged down, because if you going to bog down, Australian will trap you there. So I think South African batsmen need to play it with that positive mindset, that if we can score quicker runs there, then we can get some margin to our bowlers. So I think one of their batsmen need to attack the Australian bowlers. So I think it will change their mindset, and they will force to change their lengths.
And that's what my concern is, because about Dean Alga, for example, and I'm going to speak about it now, is since he's taken the captaincy, I feel like he understands and knows that his battle is struggling. And it's almost forced him to play out of his comfort zone almost. He's trying to play more attacking. I saw it against England. He tried to, the way he's going out, he's playing a more aggressive style. He doesn't need to do that. We actually just need him to stick in the middle and stay as long as possible. And that's what the pressure does of the scoreboard and knowing what's coming behind you. So that's why I'm almost falling a little bit more and more towards, I like the balance of a 6-5 always if you have an all-rounder. But I'm falling more and more into the bracket of the 7-4 split now because of that reason, to give Dean Alga also that comfort zone to know that he can just go out there and play his natural game. There's no need for him to go out and go smack the ball and go play far quickly because he's scared that the others are not going to come to the party. That experience that's coming back into the team gives him that security to be able to go out there and grind it out. Let's get your final thoughts. Okay, Stuart, Nazir, and then we're going to... Stuart, Ashwani, and then we end off with Nazir.
Yeah, I think personally, I'm cautiously optimistic going into the series. I'm happy that, it's like Gerald Coetzee is getting a chance. And it seems like we at least having some sort of game plan going into the series. And there's been a bit of consistency, especially with our openers for quite a while. But I just think we just need to assess the conditions on the day. I know there was a bit of a discussion earlier on about Rabada being dropped. Personally, I didn't agree with it. I think he's our X-factor bowler, and I think he's proved it time and time again that, even with an old ball, he has the ability to, if the ball can start reversing, they could also come into the game. So I think we would just be assessing the conditions on the day, and then try not to set our expectations unrealistically high. Just almost go there and just stick to our game plan and don't worry about, I know it's easier said than done, but don't worry about the crowd and if you're facing Stark and Hazelwood. Just almost do a Kevin Peterson type approach and just see ball, hit ball kind of thing. That's all I just want to see. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Ashwani, before you say anything, I think Malibonga Maketa also mentioned it, that favoring the 7-4, I think, from the articles that we've recently done with him and the conversations we've had with him. But also, I've seen his coaching style up close, and I know he's a type of player that likes to give the batters the responsibility to allow them to decide how they want to play according to the conditions. In Test cricket, it is of utmost importance. I put importance on it in T20 cricket. There's even more importance on studying conditions and playing to the conditions in Test cricket. So it's very important that we do that. Let's get your final thoughts, Ashwani, and then end off with Nazir.
Yeah, I think I would like to see what type of pitches Australians make, because I think pitches will also play that key role. Uh, if they leave the grass on the wickets, I think then it's obviously it's going to help the bowlers. But I think normally if we saw in Brisbane, Melbourne is little bit spongy wicket, and that Sydney is normally the flattest batting tracks there. So I would like to see the approach of the openers. If I think South African openers can uh, played at 10-15 overs well, I think South Africa can score big runs. And I think obviously in the case of Kagiso Rabada, I think for me, he's one of the top three bowlers in the world. And it is foolish went to uh, out Kagiso Rabada. I think he's your most important player in Australia. If he doesn't perform, then forget about South Africa winning series in Australia. So I think uh, obviously it's a competition between the bowlers of South Africa and Australia. But I think Australia's batting is also a little bit dicey. If you see, obviously they have have the like of guys like Steve Smith, Labuschagne, another South African, and obviously the David Warner. But they are also not in form. So they also look at it, because if you talk about South African batting lineup, Australian batting is also a little bit dicey. Obviously, they have the advantage of their home condition. So I think it's a contest between the two batting lineups, who is little bit fragile. So it's up to them, which of the batting lineups has done well, they will win the series.
Yeah, with KG, I mean, you can't. I think a mistake we make is comparing the different franchise, the different formats and
Yes.
cross complicate and complicate. We do that all the time. We complicate it and mix it all up. One of Rabada's best attributes is his endurance, and that's normally what gets other opposition batters on the back foot, because when they 40, 50, 60 overs in, Rabada still runs in and bowls exactly the same delivery he bowled with a new ball in the first ball that he delivered, and that intensity he keeps up, and that's what makes him so fearful and fearsome. Because whether it's an old ball or new ball or the ball swinging or not, he just has a way of producing consistency in Test cricket, and he doesn't have that time to use that in the likes of a T20 game. But anyway, Nazir, let's get your final thoughts.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not optimistic at all. I don't. I think it's going to be very hard for us to beat Australia in Australia. It's look, if you look at I think our bowling is probably par with theirs. Maybe, yeah, bowling is probably par. But if you look at the batting, we're really struggling. I mean, we spoke about Australia's batting earlier. They all of the top four probably averages about 45. We don't have like a single batsman averaging over 40 in our whole batting lineup. So yeah, it's going to be tough for us to beat Australia in Australia. We're going to need big performances from each player. Is batsmen need to chip in. Our bowlers always have us, but I think it's time for batsmen to step up. Who knows? But I'm not optimistic.
Yeah, we need to find a way to sort out our batting. That's the main thing. Because I mean, you know, my thoughts. My thoughts have always been about the reset. I've been talking about the reset 4 years ago already. We're keeping on with the same mentality, the same strategy going into this new Test championship. I said we should have built for the next Test championship, last Test championship already. I thought that should have been the process and the mindset to go with, because we don't have that experience that we're talking about within Test cricket. It's pointless a 33-year-old's walking out to the middle and struggling to play the swing bowlers. What's he learning from that? He's not going to. I don't think he's going to learn much from that situation than when a youngster like Rainer van Torde walks out to the middle and he's facing Mitchell Stark. I bet you after one innings or a couple of balls or overs facing Mitchell Stark, the amount that he would have taken in to add to his game is a lot more than having a guy that's already settled in his ways to try and unlearn bad habits, to try and learn new ones. It's very tough to learn at the highest level to do that. But anyway, let's end it here. Thanks a lot for everybody for tuning in. Stuart, Ashwani, Nazir, Umpo, Aticha, everybody that tuned in today. It was
Khalid,
an excellent
Khalid,
show.
I have one point. If South Africa has that winning chance in area, I think it's in Melbourne. I think there South Africa can beat Australia.
Yeah. We'll get into the preview when we do the preview
Yeah.
of the actual test series. Keep all that stats. Ashwani and Stuart, you guys did well with stats. So please go ahead and check that before our preview so that we can have some stats on the show as well. But guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. Smash the
Yeah,
like
thank
button, subscribe to
Thank
the
you.
magazine, and do all of those things. We'll see you guys very, very soon. Take care, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the year. Peace.